Friday with our DiscoVerb Devo for the day. Pastor John is with us after preaching yesterday, and we're going to talk a little bit more on the importance of being united in mission and where our own corner is in the world. All right, so Pastor John, you talked about the importance of being united in mission in good times and in difficult times. And this past year, around the world, especially for us here in Minneapolis, it's been difficult to remain united. So how do we keep the unity in the mission going forward?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's more difficult than we'd like to admit sometimes. I think, the idea of unity it's comfortable, we like it, we long for it. I think it's easy to think that we got it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to take that step back and saying, even if I feel like I'm doing my part to support or encourage unity, there's still a lot of work to be done, and it takes a lot of humility. I think it's 133 that says how good and pleasant it is when God's people are united. And for me, that's kind of the motivation of it. This is what we are not suggested to be like. This is not just what we should be doing. This is what we are called to do. From Christ himself through the early church, we see the struggles for unity as well, but the continuous calls for them. And I just can't help but think of the way the psalmist said how good and pleasant it is. So for me, I think that's just a little bit of the motivation for that, especially like you said, in those difficult times, is when maybe we find more unity by listening first, by trying to grow or learn, or expand our understanding or perspectives, and then keeping the love and example of Christ at the forefront.
And even seeing that our differences are meant to divide, but
Right.
maybe our differences are meant to unite us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love this story, and who couldn't relate to kids cleaning their rooms and not knowing where to start? I mean, that's how I was when I was a kid. I didn't know where to start either. But your advice to your kids of just start in a corner and then work your way around, that applies to us in our lives today, even as adults.
Yes.
So where can we start in our corner this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting advantage or interesting take, because it's so easy sometimes to get overwhelmed by the wholeness of something or the bigness of a task. So with the kids in their room, or even my office, if I'm honest, from time to time, when you think of everything that needs to happen or how big the job is, it can be overwhelming. And when we get overwhelmed, we have a tendency to just shut down or to neglect or ignore or push it aside. So the idea of just starting small and making your way through those small steps are what leads to big change, is absolutely relatable to our task in the Great Commission. When we look at what that is all entailed, it seems almost, impossible. But if we start in our corner, right? So how can we do that? Well, the corners are so unique. Everyone's corner is a little bit different. But I think what it really is more than anything, it's where God has placed you. And not necessarily in the grandeur of the Great Commission. We all play a part of that, but it's, those direct relationships, your direct neighbors, co-workers, friends, family that are on your heart, to be praying for wisdom from God on how you can continue to share your faith and be an image bearer of Christ to them. I think it's also just, where God has placed you in any given day. We have this opportunity wherever we are. And I think we'll notice that when we start finding the courage and the opportunities in those small, comfortable areas, we might start growing in our courage, growing in the opportunities that God will bring us every day, to see it starting in a corner but expanding out through the whole room, or really through the whole world. But I will say this, and this is kind of, I guess, my challenge for us all, and I know I'm doing this here, is I think there's somewhere else we start first before we even go to our corner. I think there's somewhere else we need to start, and I think that's right in here. It's right in our hearts. I think this last month we've talked so much about how we are called to go, and how we are called to go out and do things for the Lord, and that's 100% true, and that's 100% accurate. But I think before we even take a step, every day our corner should really start by praying for that humility. And when we look at the world, the good time and the bads, and the call for unity, we know there's work to be done. We know that there's changes that we want to see in the world. So my simple prayer every day for me is, God, in terms of these changes, let it start with me. Let it start with me. If I can have that prayer to dear God, let it begin in me for unity, for humility, for love, for grace. If it starts here, I know that there's going to be more momentum in those corners, that there's going to be more momentum in our call to live out the Great Commission.
Yeah, because so many times we get excited and we just want to go out and we try and follow God from the front.
Yeah.
But it's important for us to slow down and to follow right beside God.
Absolutely.
And to go out with God on mission.
Absolutely.
And it starts with that prayer of, God, where are we going today?
It's kind of like your devotion you did the other day with your puppy.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely.
Let's not walk sideways trying to follow up front, but side by side.
Because that's a beautiful thing. The Holy Spirit, when we do that, will absolutely lead, point us, and go before us in the right directions.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you so much for challenging us to start in our corner, to listen to where God has us to go, and to just step out in faith. So that's our challenge this week, Discover Church family, is to start in your corner, pray where God has you to go, and then just see the unity that grows in the Holy Spirit. God bless you, and you have a great week.